What is up, fight fans? So UFC 292 goes down this weekend, and the card isn't looking as promising as it was like a few weeks ago to a month ago. Like, if you remember, this card was supposed to be stacked. We were going to get Jeff Neal versus Garry. Cody Garbrandt was going to be on the card. Henry Cejudo was going to be on this card. Instead, we got to settle for midness, but I'm giving my breakdown and prediction for this card regardless, because usually for every pay-per-view, I always drop my breakdowns and predictions, so might as well for this one, and it's fight week, so it's only fitting. So, we got Aljamain Sterling versus Sugar Sean O'Malley as the headliner, Zhang Weili versus Amanda Lemos, the co-headliner, the strawweight championship of the world. And Garry's got a new opponent, a different Neal with a different last name and the first name spelled differently. And Chito Vera has got a worse opponent than Henry Cejudo, but not a more winnable opponent. Well, more winnable, actually, I'll say. And then Chris Weidman versus Brad Tavares. These are the fights I'm going to talk about. I don't know if this is like the official main card order because I haven't seen like a picture of the exact lineup yet. I know Mario Bautista got a replacement, but I don't really care to talk about that fight. I'm just going to talk about what's here on this screen. So, I'm going to start with Chris Weidman versus Brad Tavares. Man, this fight has been very difficult to predict. You know, from when it got announced, I was originally thinking, man, Chris Weidman should easily win this fight, right? This is like the most safest fight for him to come back to, but I did some thinking, man, because Weidman is coming off a 2.5-year layoff and a brutal injury, and he's pushing 40. And Brad, in all honesty, isn't the biggest pushover now. If they would have fought in 2021 and before, I would favor Chris Weidman, even at the time where Weidman was considered past his prime, because I just think Brad isn't that good, and I think Chris Weidman is so much better than Brad Tavares. But again, he hasn't fought in a while, and he's probably going to be even further past his prime, more rusty. I mean, we could maybe see the best Weidman we've ever seen coming off this layoff on the same card as his buddy Aljo, but I can't bank on that. I'm going to have to go with Brad Tavares, unfortunately. I hope I'm wrong, because I like Chris Weidman. Dude is an absolute legend. He was a great middleweight champion when he was on top. And, you know, Tavares, he's already reached his ceiling. He's not going to go that far. But I think right now, Weidman is in a stage of his career where he can lose to guys like Brad Tavares. And Tavares has very good takedown defense. And I watched some Tavares fights. And I saw his fight with Dricus du Plessis, the #1 middleweight in the world, where he actually did exceptionally well in that fight against Dricus, and now Dricus just beat Robert and is going to fight for the belt soon. You know, I know we got Izzy Strickland, but I'm assuming Dricus gets the winner. So, yeah, I got to go with activity here and the fact that Brad is a bit younger. So, I'm going to go with Tavares winning this fight. And it's just going to be a sad case of a legend being sent on his or her way. Obviously, his in this case. But yeah, that's what I think will happen. So I got Tavares winning, but I really hope not. I want Chris to win. I want the Chris to win this fight. And then we got Chito Vera versus Pedro, the young Punisher Munhoz. So this is a downgrade from the Cejudo fight. But Pedro Munhoz is a tough matchup for Chito Vera, and I think he's a bad matchup for Chito Vera. Now, both guys are very similar in the sense that both men are extremely tough and durable, and they're well-rounded, they're good, they're dangerous on the feet, and they're also very good on the ground, you know? But the difference between these two, for as similar as they are, Chito Vera is a very slow starter, and he relies on a lot of come-from-behind finishes, you know? Like, he relies on being able to, you know, download the data like Peter Yan, take a beating, and then come back and drop you and change the fight, like against Font, or come back and knock you out, like against Frankie and Cruz, which were old men, by the way. But even though Pedro Munhoz is an old man, he's like not Dominic Cruz level dinosaur, basically, even though Cruz did whoop Pedro's ass still. And Pedro Munhoz beat Frankie Edgar, by the way. I mean, Edgar did win the fight, but did he really win? You know what I mean? Now, of the two, Chito is the better finisher. Like, Pedro's unable to finish fights like Chito can. Like, Pedro couldn't finish Cruz. He hurt him and then wasn't able to capitalize and got beat up for the rest of the fight. Vera did better against Aldo than Pedro Munhoz did. And Vera was able to finish Edgar when the fight was getting tough, unlike Pedro. But here's the issue. Here's why I do favor Munhoz to win. Because it's a 3-round fight, and I think that favors Pedro because he puts his foot on the gas right away. He's aggressive right from the get-go, and because of his durability, because this guy's never been knocked out, never been dropped, I don't see Chito Vera knocking this guy out. He might land some good shots, he might land some good kicks, some good knees down the center, but Pedro's just gonna eat them, keep coming. He's going to keep landing. I think Pedro Munhoz actually has better hands than Chito Vera. Chito has better kicks than him, but Pedro Munhoz is pretty decent at defending kicks. So I can see him blocking a lot of the kicks of Vera, checking a lot of calf kicks, out calf kicking Chito Vera in this fight, and just putting on the pressure and just having a lot more octagon control. I don't see Chito Vera out grappling him in this fight. Maybe if this was like a 5-round fight, I would probably favor Chito because even though he wouldn't get a finish, he might be able to build as it goes on, and Pedro might slow down and might start wearing more damage. But because it's a 3-round fight, I just think that Pedro is going to look good early, and I think that Vera is just not going to be able to rally with like a knockdown or a finish. So I think he's going to fall behind in this fight against Munhoz and lose a decision. I do see this being a very, very close fight. But yeah, I just think the 3 rounds is going to favor Pedro. So I think Pedro 29-28. I just think to really give Munhoz problems, you have to be a really elite level striker with speed and footwork. You cannot stand in front of this guy. And the problem with Vera is he doesn't have good footwork, and he's a stationary target. He stands right there in the center line, so he's going to be right there as Pedro Munhoz. He's going to be an open target for Pedro Munhoz for his shots, for his combinations, and when he's going forward and pressuring, and he's going to get hit a lot in this fight. So yeah, I got Pedro winning this fight by unanimous decision. 29-28. He wins the first 2, and then Chito might come back a little too late without being able to pull off a finish because Pedro is extremely tough. But we'll see. I could be wrong. Now moving up to the feature fight of the card in the welterweight division. Neil Magny versus Ian Machado Garry. So this is a complete downgrade from the Jeff Neal fight, but the one relieving part about the Neal fight, the Jeff fight not happening anymore, is that I don't have to stress over who I'm going to pick, because for the longest time, I could not make up my mind as to who I'm picking between Ian Garry and Jeff Neal. Like, I really could have seen Jeff winning this fight. He could have definitely knocked out Ian Garry. I've seen him get dropped before by a low-level can, and we know Jeff Neal is dangerous, but Neil Magny is not dangerous, but he is tough. And he is a solid veteran, and he knows how to win a lot of fights, even fights that he shouldn't be winning. And Neil Magny, he's just one of those guys. He's like that top 7 gatekeeper that he's like there as like a test to see if you're good enough to be at that top level of the division. And if you can't beat Neil Magny, then that's your ceiling. You won't go far, and you pretty much suck, like D-Rod. Or if you're washed up, if you're a washed legend, he'll beat you. But Ian Machado Garry is a very good prospect. He's a solid prospect. He's getting better every single fight. And the thing is with Neil Magny is he does well when he has like the height and the reach advantage over his opponents. But Ian Garry is literally the exact same height as Neil Magny. But Neil has the reach advantage, but not the height advantage. So I think that Ian Garry is going to have no problem getting close to Neil Magny and finding his shots. And I think he's the better striker than Neil Magny. Now, Neil Magny, he is a grinder. He is tough. He's a high output fighter, and he's extremely well-rounded. But I don't see him outstriking Ian Garry. I think his best path to victory is to try and out-wrestle Ian Garry, but Ian has pretty good takedown defense. So I think Ian can defend takedowns, and I think he can outstrike Neil Magny. So I got Ian Garry winning this fight. I don't know if he'll stop Neil Magny, but I just think he's going to be the all-out better fighter of the two, and I think he will remain undefeated. I don't see Neil Magny giving him his first L, and I hope after this fight, I hope they reschedule the Jeff Neal fight, because that's the fight that we all are hoping to see. Now, moving on to the co-main event of the evening, the Women's Strawweight Championship of the World. Magnum Zhang Weili, the two-time strawweight champion, looking to make her first title defense against the dangerous top contender in Amanda Lemos. Very dangerous fight for Zhang Weili because Amanda Lemos, she's big, she's long, she's powerful, power in every strike, in her punches and even her kicks, very dangerous low kicks, and she can go high with them as well. And that's one thing I am actually worried about in this fight, because she did drop Angela Hill with the head kick, and we've seen Weili get head kicked before by Rose Namajunas. So the power difference, I mean, I don't want to say there's a big power difference because Weili's powerful too, but I feel like Lemos is the more prolific KO artist of the two. But the power of Amanda Lemos is definitely something to keep an eye on in this matchup, because she does have a very good chance at catching Weili and knocking her out. And she also is pretty good on the ground as well. She's got good submission ability, but I'm picking Zhang Weili to win this fight because I just think that she's the all-around better, more skilled fighter of the two. You know, she's just got more experience. She's just more world-class. She's had more championship fights, and overall better resume. I know resumes don't always mean jack when it comes down to matchups and styles. Like, she can have a better resume and then end up losing this fight. But I just think Weili is better, and I think she has more ways to win this fight. You know, I think on the feet, I think Zhang can outstrike Amanda Lemos here. I think she's better with her kicks. I think she's faster. I think her footwork is better. And Weili is, like, deceptively smart. Like, I don't see Weili going out here and engaging in a slugfest against a powerful striker like Amanda Lemos. It won't be like how she went out there and went rock'em sock'em with Joanna because there was no power threat. She knows the power threat is going to be there, so she's going to be very cautious. I see her just leg kicking Amanda Lemos and keeping her at bay with side kicks. And when the distance does get closed, I do think that it's going to be on Zhang Weili's terms. But when she does close the distance, it's not going to be to trade with Amanda Lemos. I mean, she might land some shots and catch her as she enters, but it's going to be to get in the clinch and get a takedown from the clinch, like an inside trip. And we've seen Zhang Weili go for that now in a lot of her fights against Rose the second time, Joanna in the rematch. Like, her wrestling ability has really improved. And if I'm Weili, that's what I'm leaning towards in this fight. And I think that's going to be a part of Zhang Weili's game. I think she's going to have a wrestling-heavy game plan in this fight against a dangerous power striker like Amanda Lemos. Now, she will strike with her a bit, but she's going to play it smart, play it safe, and then get takedowns when she needs to. Now, there will be like a few submission attempts to watch out for in this fight. Like, Amanda Lemos does have good submissions, but it will be off maybe trying to counter takedowns. Like, if Weili shoots, Amanda might go for a guillotine, or as soon as they hit the mat, Amanda might look for a leg lock. But beyond that point, once Weili is able to get past those sub attempts, Weili is just going to completely dominate on the ground. And I just think round after round, she's going to keep going back to those takedowns, to those inside trips, to that wrestling. And I don't see Amanda being able to stop it. And Weili, she might make this a boring fight if she has to in order to win. Like, I can see Weili just wrestling her to a decision if she has to. But I'm going to predict that she's going to find a finish somewhere in this fight, and maybe inside 2 to 3 rounds. And I'm going to predict that the striking early will be cautious and will look a little bit scary. But Weili will get her takedowns, and I think that she's going to soften Amanda Lemos up on the ground, and then going forward into round 2, Amanda's going to be worried about the takedowns, a little bit more worn down from the damage that she's going to take on the ground. And then when she's worried about the takedowns, then Weili's going to start finding more success on the feet, catching Amanda Lemos more, and she might stun Amanda Lemos on the feet, but she's going to be smart about it. She's not going to chase the knockout because Amanda will still be in there, still be in the fight, still be dangerous. So she's going to go back to a takedown, rock her on the feet, drag her back down, and then definitely pass her guard and either ground and pound TKO her, or she might go for a submission and maybe an armbar from the mount. We shall see. But a Weili decision or even like an Amanda Lemos upset would not surprise me. She does have a good chance. But Weili right now is the best strawweight in the world, and she's continuously getting better. And Amanda Lemos, man, she's old. She's no spring chicken. She's 36. And she's just looked a little bit sus against lower levels of competition, you know? She got choked out by Andrade not too long ago. Barely got by Angela Hill. And she's mainly just beaten cans. And before she submitted Watterson, she didn't look too hot prior to that. So based off that and what I know, I just think Weili's the superior fighter. And Amanda's dangerous, but overall on a skill level, I don't think she's that good. Hence why I cannot trust her to win. So as far as I'm concerned, I think we're going to hear and still. Now, moving on to the main event of the evening, the Bantamweight Championship of the World. Aljamain Funkmaster Sterling versus Sugar Sean O'Malley. We got Sugar Sean O'Malley coming off a robbery win over Peter Yan and barely getting through Pedro Munhoz before eye-poking him to a no contest. And just beating a bunch of cans pretty much, while Aljamain Sterling has been beating some of the best guys that the bantamweight division has to offer. Some of them twice, like Peter Yan, just recently beating an Olympic gold medalist like Henry Cejudo, and just racking up 3 title defenses and on track to becoming the bantamweight GOAT. Aljamain Sterling is going to win this fight. And I actually unironically want Sean O'Malley to win this fight because I'm not the biggest fan of Aljamain Sterling. I'm going to be honest. I have not rooted for this guy ever since the Corey Sandhagen fight. Since then, I wanted Jan to win the first time, and the second time, I wanted TJ to win. It's been a mix of he's been fighting some of my favorite fighters, and I disliked him off how he won the belt and how he acted, but whatever, he's proven himself to be a worthy champion once he's got the belt and defended it multiple times and has held this belt for 2.5 years. And Sterling has already eliminated his toughest competition, you know. He beat guys like Jan twice. Well, only once on a technicality, in my opinion. I don't count the first one. He beat TJ Dillashaw. I know it was on one arm, but if anyone was going to have a good chance at beating him, it was TJ. He dominated him. And then he beats the Olympic gold medalist in Henry Cejudo, who should have been a bad matchup. And he won that fight. His toughest matchups are behind him. And now he's fighting Sugar Sean O'Malley, who is the pure striker coming into this matchup. And I can't pick with my emotions here. I got to pick with my head. I just think that Aljamain Sterling is just a terrible matchup for Sean O'Malley. You know, he's got the experience, but he also has a stylistic advantage due to his high-level wrestling and jiu-jitsu. Everyone knows Sean O'Malley's path to victory and only chance to win this fight is he has to be able to defend takedowns, keep it standing long enough, create enough space, and, you know, outstrike Aljo and time a good shot to get the knockout. But that is a big if. That's a lot to ask for when you're going up against someone like Aljamain Sterling. And everyone knows what Aljamain wants to do. But no one is able to neutralize his game. No one's able to negate his specialty, which is getting in close, getting a hold of you, and backpacking you, getting his takedowns, imposing his ground game. And that's how, honestly, I define dominance there. And if guys like Henry Cejudo wasn't able to do it, and if TJ wasn't able to do it, and Jan, even though that second fight was close, struggled, and I think Jan is better than O'Malley, then I really don't see how Sean can do any better or do what those guys couldn't. You know what I mean? He doesn't have the wrestling pedigree of a Henry Cejudo, the high-level takedown defense of a Peter Yan, you know, and the overall well-roundedness of a TJ Dillashaw. Now, yes, he does have an underrated ground game. His jiu-jitsu is pretty good. But like up against someone like Aljamain Sterling, his jiu-jitsu game will mean absolutely nothing. It might be enough for him to maybe survive on the ground when he gets taken down. But he's going to get taken down regardless. And when he gets taken down, he's going to get absolutely dominated on the ground. And Sterling has a lot less to worry about in this fight. Like, he knows that he can take Sean down. He knows that he can close the distance on him. He knows he can get a hold of him. Sean is the one who has to worry in this fight about keeping this standing. And even he said it's do or die. Don't let him grab me. Whereas Aljo's going to come in this fight a lot more relaxed. Like, I don't have to worry. I just have to worry about his striking, his boxing, his power. But I know I'm at some point going to get a hold of him. And when he does, like he says, that's a wrap. So, honestly, I think O'Malley's going to choke in this fight, you know, figuratively and literally. He's going to come in there with a plan, but I think he's going to panic once Aljo comes out the gate with his frantic pace and pressure. And I just think the game plan might go out the window. And once Aljo gets a hold of him, it's going to be all Aljamain Sterling. And from there, yeah, I don't know. He might get a submission early. I've been saying prior to this video that O'Malley might make this fight more competitive than expected, or he might drag it out longer. But will he really? Like, Aljo can just go out there and end it early and have an easy night. I am hoping for an upset, and I really want Sean O'Malley to win this fight. But I just don't think he's on Sterling's level. And he didn't win his last fight against Jan. I'm sorry. Say what you want about that fight. He lost to Peter Yan, and that was his only best win in his entire career, was a robbery against Peter Yan, whereas Aljo has beaten so much better competition. So based off that, I think Sterling is keeping the belts, unfortunately. But this will be the last of him at bantamweight because he's going to vacate and move up and lose to Volkanovski. And I guess Merab Dvalishvili will be our next champion. But yeah, that's it for my breakdown and prediction for UFC 292 in Boston. That's my birthplace, by the way. Sucks that I couldn't be there. But looking forward to Saturday. And let me know your picks in the comment section down below. And peace out.